warm welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for making it to today's Change Does Matter virtual forum. Today is actually a little bit of a birthday for this event because it's been 3 years that I've been running this opportunity for our network to connect, to talk about topics that are really close to our hearts. And I'm so glad that you've managed to join us. And I would like to warmly welcome you for today's edition, which is going to be focusing on anchoring habits for change. Now, if you are a person from the world of work or community or international organization realm, you might have experienced that a new organizational change, whatever it might have been, was seen as a tattoo, something that's permanent, that's scary, that's a huge commitment. Or you might have struggled to get others to adopt new routines, to build habits, to really live the change we are looking for. Or you might have experienced that feeling of wondering why some habits stick and the others disappear. If to any of these questions your answer is yes, then you are in the right place. And as always, I would like to just make sure we are clear on this. Today is not a webinar. I'm not going to preach. I'm going to invite you to reflect with me on a model that has helped me, and hopefully it can help you both personally and professionally at the workplace too. To warm up, I would love to invite you to reflect with me on a poll question. To you, which part of building a new routine or habit is the hardest? Is it getting people to move beyond the yes, but? Is it turning off one-off action? Yes, we need to do it, and no one repeats it. Therefore, it doesn't really take place. It doesn't change the way we work. Or it's just keeping up the attention when everything is moving so fast that people suddenly focus on other important aspects of their everyday life. Or it is overcoming quiet resistance. By quiet resistance, what I mean is when people just don't tell you they're not going to do it. It's usually the result of inaction, not necessarily loudly saying, Ellen, Tatiana, Juan, I don't want this. It's because they disappear. I would love to invite you to fill this little survey in. I'm going to put the link into the chat, and I would love to see what are your thoughts about these questions specifically. So, which of the five are the most talking, most relevant to you? And if you have any comments, feel free to write into the chat as well. If you feel none of the four that I highlighted is really an issue, there is something else. So let me build on what you are going to contribute to today's discussions with. Hopefully you can use the hyperlink shown in the chat. Please keep it at hand because I will use it on one more occasion. Or you can also use the QR code on the top right. Let's see, I see the first votes coming in, and I also see a comment here in the chat. It's the Monday blues, building a habit that's Monday proof. It's a very good comment because every Tuesday afternoon things are working, what we agreed on, but when Monday comes, people forget it. Very, very good point. Thank you so much for that comment in the chat. So let's see the results. Feel free to keep adding your thoughts around it, and you can vote for more than just one. It's most of you feel it's the challenge of seeing an action in place, but people are quietly disappearing. They don't talk about why they don't want to do certain things, but they just disappear. More than half of you said so, but also making a one-off commitment to an actual habit, a long-term sustainable commitment is difficult. I tend to agree with this. And one of the organizations that I often quote is called PROSCI, PROSCI. It's a US-based global organization that looks at trends and does biannual researches about what makes or breaks changes in the corporate and not-for-profit worlds as well. And what they find is that usually any change, building a new routine, using a new system, does not fail at the launch stage because all of us are so focused on getting the right communication out, telling people why they should be doing it. But the true struggle is coming when new behaviors are just not consistently adopted in a day-to-day work. And that's why I thought anchoring habits for change would be a brilliant topic for us to explore together. In my community, we often talk about books we read, and amongst others, about a decade ago, I read a book from Charles Duhigg called The Power of Habit. Then a few years back, I also read a book that many of you might be familiar with, The Atomic Habit by James Clear. I reread that over the holidays and I said, this is exactly what we need to talk about. It's not about knowing what it takes to build a habit, but knowing how to do it. Today, what I'd like to focus on with you is I would like to talk with you about what it takes to build habits and routines and break the old ones. I would like us to really take this as an opportunity to share our ideas and learn from one another. And for that reason, based on past virtual forums feedback, I will make sure we will have one breakout chance for us to talk in smaller groups. And I would like to share with you one practical tool that I believe is simple and super practical. Again, it's not a classical webinar. I expect you to speak up, to vote if that's needed, and definitely to talk and share your insights and experiences to make sure everything that we talk about is close to your reality. I see another comment. Repeatable habits are an issue, Gosda says, because I think also quiet resistance is very challenging. Absolutely, as the comments are suggesting in the poll as well. These are really reoccurring and common challenges we have to overcome. So let's see how in this Change Maverick community we can find opportunities and practical steps to deal with that. For those who see me for the first time on the virtual stage, my name is Margit Takács. I'm a change management consultant, an author, trainer, coach. Everything that I can do, I dedicate to finding ways to tame the chaos of change at the workplace. With over 20 years of work experience, both in the for-profit and not-for-profit world, I've got lots of stories. I've been attending trainings and I've been learning methodologies. But what I truly find powerful is when, with like minded people like you, we talk about how to bring that back to the workplace. And my mission today is to facilitate just that dialogue. Thank you so much for joining me today for this event. Now, the dilemma, maybe some of you have seen this before, is that really a hat, a haircut, or a tattoo problem? About 2 months ago, I was listening of a recording of podcast from Steve Bartlett, who interviewed the author of the book I mentioned to you, James Clear. And they started talking about this, and it really clicked with me. Therefore, I thought this could be a good way to warm us up to the topic. Research shows that a lot of us, when it comes to any changes, changing habits, changing systems, we think of huge changes. But in reality, when we overcomplicate it, that leads us to paralysis, analysis paralysis, and we don't take any steps. So allow me to explain where these metaphors come from and why it caught my attention as I was listening to that podcast. And since then, I've read a few articles as well. The hat is a low risk, a small reversible experiment. If it fails, you simply take it off. You pick up a new habit, let's say trying at your workplace, trying a 15-minute stand-up meeting at the very beginning of your working hours. It is a hat experiment, a hat habit, because you put it on, you try it. Do I like it? Nah. Okay, I just take it off. Not the end of the world. However, there are habits as well that take a little bit more commitment and mean a little bit more risks. I would say moderate risks. And those are the haircuts. Men or women, we can probably relate to it. It's a little bit going to the hairdresser and not getting it right. Yes, it won't feel comfortable for a while, but in all fairness, in a month, 2 or 3, it grows out and I can go back to the hairdresser and try something else. This haircut is a moderate risk habit that we might pick up. To give you an example, if we want to switch to a new, let's say, project management tool, it can be Trello, Asana, there are lots of them out in the world. We can just do it for 1 month and see if it works. And if it doesn't, that's okay. We can get another haircut and move to something that fits our needs much better. It's not just like a hat because we have a commitment to it, but the risk is moderate and people resist it less than when we talk about the tattoo. The tattoo is a big commitment. We could also say a high risk thing. Either you like tattoos or not, but they are permanent, or it takes really a lot of work to get rid of them. And those are the high stake shifts in habits we do. They are difficult, and to reverse them can be very costly. Just think about it. If we get a tattoo, we'll have to go to the dermatologist or the specialist and invest quite some time and money to make sure that it's being taken away. To give you a corporate example for that, it is like reorganizing your company or your institute. When you change the core systems, you shift everything around. To reverse where you used to be can be very costly. It can take a long time. What I like about the authors of and some of the articles that I've read about is that when we want to launch any change at the workplace, we often say, "Oh, Dios mío, this is huge. I mean, am I not doing anything right? Do I have to do everything differently?" And our role is to simplify it and make it less scary. Yes, yet, as Gosda mentioned in the chat, make sure that people see what small adjustments they can make to truly be part of the change. Because, as I mentioned, the research from ProSci, this very well recognized organization, shows year on year that the challenge is not with launching a change project, it is to keeping it up and really understanding what holds people back with it. So the hat is a low risk change. The haircut is semi-permanent. I mean, 1 to 3 months. But the tattoo is a permanent shift. And we need to ask ourselves what it is really. Bruce Lee, probably all of you know him, had a famous quote that I felt would really fit here as we warm up for today's virtual forum. He said, if you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you will never get it done. And I think this is a really nice quote to say that today, together, I hope we can turn intention to action, intending to embrace whatever change in your community or in your company you want to drive to action so that we can see some progress. Let me move back for a moment again to the three little metaphors: the head, the haircut, and the tattoo. And I invite us all to think about how risky a change we would like to see at the workplace really is and what happens if it doesn't work. Because, believe it or not, most of the time changes around us are not tattoo changes. They are haircut or head changes, and they are much less scarier. For the next slide, I would like to invite you to either speak up or share your thoughts in the chat. I would love to find out what is your intuition telling you about how to break down a big tattoo change into small head changes, experiments that people will less likely resist. What ideas come up as you're listening to this metaphor? How could we break down tattoo changes into small changes? I see a private comment here about the sandbox. Yeah, I like that. You probably have experienced that before in organizations where you have worked in, where they didn't make a huge big bang approach, but they said there is this sandbox experiment. For a week or for a month, you can use the new system and play around with it. You can find the bugs and you can really see if it's not so user friendly. Thank you so much for that comment. So the sandbox experiment is one way. Anything else? Start with a pilot. Thank you, Boski. Absolutely. Start with a pilot because it makes it digestible and you can have quick wins. And that big, big, big tattoo change, let's say a reorganization, no longer will feel too overwhelming. Gosda also says piloting works and sharing the proof. Very well said. Just looking away to be able to read it. Tatiana, try it in one region, area, or team. Find those little bubbles in the world of change management. We also call them finding the success of tribal chiefs who can show us that it's possible. And once that proof is within the organization, people can buy into it more and more. Chaba says, start with a small pilot and get champions to share the experience. Find the advocates. Such a good comment. Find the advocates. So it's not just you, Chaba, Ellen, and Sabrina, but many of us talk about the same change, even if it's a tattoo change. Great comment. De-risk it by agreeing on milestones for reviews and potential changes. Absolutely. Thank you, Tatiana. De-risking, how would you do that? How would you de-risk it?
This is when people sometimes believe that the decision is made for the rest of their lives, as opposed to, okay, let's make the decision, even if we have some disagreements, sit with it, don't just throw it out of the window, but let's try it. And so this is what we call aligned decision. So even if I don't fully agree, I can still live with it for a while. And then we agree that maybe 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks, or whatever the appropriate term is, we revisit it and we say, okay, these are the indications, these are the changes, this is what's going well, this is maybe not as well as we would have hoped for. So how can we then maybe, if not slightly reverse, but course correct? So yeah,
Course
make it
correct.
more of a hat or a haircut, at least, as opposed as a tattoo, like you're there forever now with this.
Thank you. So
Pleasure.
de-risking is also acknowledging the possible pitfalls, and with the course correction being offered, we open the door to be able to co-create. Now, a classical example, and those of you who have worked in big organization, whichever background, you know reorganizations happen every 2, 3, 5 years, depends on the industry and sector. But sometimes you go back to what was the organization like several years before, and you say, yes, but it's not going to work. Maybe it's just another trial, but we'll have to see what small adjustments we can do because, as in my former organization, we used to say, our company is not the federal republic of employees where every change we do is to make them happy. Of course, we want to keep them engaged because it's really important for high performance and the right spirit. But the organization has to survive too. So difficult changes have to take place sometimes. Be realistic, even organizational change is mostly open to improvements and refinement and takes time to shape up in the final direction. What a great comment goes there, because sometimes we don't know actually what is it that's going to come out of it, but if you give it a chance, it can show it. Juan, what is the real reason why this is a tattoo change? What are we resisting or are reluctant to change? Juan, have you ever experienced in your organization or the ones before where you could ask this question? Is this really a tattoo change? And how did it go down? Tell us a little bit practically how this question could work.
Um, no, recently I had more than an organizational experience, a personal one. So I thought that I was addicted to coffee. And then I heard how bad sugar is for you, and I decided to remove sugar from my coffee. And now I hate coffee. So I was actually, I think I was addicted to sugar, not to coffee. Okay, so understanding what is really that you're addicted to, what is really that you need to change or you don't want to change is really, really important, right?
What a good metaphor. And I think many people can relate to it. I agree with those little thumbs ups, Tatjana. Absolutely, because sometimes we see the change that is not intended to be. You thought that I did not like coffee, but in reality, the sugar was the at fault. And once it was out of the picture, you could enjoy that routine, that habit. And Chava says, gather the pain of the company from the bottom to top and show how this change tackles the pain. May I ask you to share a few more words about this, Chava?
Yes, absolutely. So if you want to have buy-in from the employees, the change that you do must meet their requirements as well. So it just shouldn't be just from top to bottom, like we go this way or that way, because they will resist. But if you know their pain and if you can create smaller groups amongst the employees and understand how the change will impact those smaller groups, you can easily define which one you start with, and you can easily understand their reactions.
Absolutely. Listen to them and connect it with the bigger picture. Thank you very much, Csaba, for sharing that.
Cheers.
Now, the first step we do is to audit our resistance to a habit, a change, and then to see whether we can translate the tattoo big change into smaller head changes. And as many of you mentioned, finding proof, doing pilots, finding the champions who can advocate for it can help change the tattoo into a head, something that's easier to take on and off and hopefully become eventually a good routine. The volunteer-only pilot allows people, especially the early adapters and innovators, to put up their hands. But we should never forget that the resistors, the laggers, also give a huge value to what we want to do for whatever change we want to see in our community or at the workplace. Now, the second step after finding out, auditing whether it's a head haircut or tattoo change, really, is to design the habit. The book that I mentioned to you that I found very interesting talks about the 4 laws of habit, and I'd like to just recap it. I tried to memorize it with OAES, not the easiest acronym yet, but it's all about making it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. I'd like to share with you a quick explanation and 2 examples, maybe similar to the coffee story that Juan just shared with us, but something that hopefully makes it even more relatable. So making it obvious is having a visual cue, something that triggers us wherever we are, at home, at work, on the streets, something that makes it a gentle reminder. The second one is to do it at the time or right after something you do that you enjoy. So you couple the things together so that it does not feel like extra work. It's something that you can do concurrently. The third one is making it easy. Reduce friction and start with the 2-minute rule. If you've heard about the 2-minute rule, you probably remember it's all about just taking the first step. A classical example is about exercising, and there are lots of fun stories to share how when people are interested in building in exercise into their daily or weekly routine, just putting on the outfit and stepping into the gym for 2 minutes will help them. A couple of times they do it, and those 2 minutes will turn into 5, 10, and eventually longer. But you make the first step to feel progress. But it has to be easy. It has to be as friction-free as possible. And the fourth one is making it satisfying. I have recently worked with a company in the electronic manufacturing industry, and they said, yes, making it satisfying, money, money, money. Well, we have to find other ways as well, because few companies have at their leisure extra bonuses to give for small habit changes, if any. But let's see how this can work in real life for us as individuals. I thought of 2 examples to share from my own life. The first one is about Duolingo. I love languages and I'm always interested in picking up new ones. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I met an Italian family who did not speak any of the languages I did. And I liked them despite the language barriers so much that I decided I will start learning Italian as a hobby. So it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years, that I've been doing Duolingo on a regular basis. And I wanted to show you what an excellent example it is to help us build routines. Of course, if we have a strong why to be able to do that, which for me was to be able to converse with people from that culture, from that country. So the first thing I wanted to share is the Duolingo app. Yes, it's on my phone, and it does send reminders. If you use it, you probably know it as well. To make it attractive, I am actually pairing it with 2 things. My morning tea. I am a big tea drinker, and that kind of prompts me whilst I enjoy my rooibos tea in the morning and our little sun garden. I also take 5 minutes to do it, and the easy bit comes from there. I don't take hours to learn that new language, but I take a couple of minutes. And whenever I see a little ding of a streak being achieved, I'm encouraged. Oh, I could do more than 5 minutes. Needless to say, I don't always do it more than for 5 minutes, but I feel progress. So Duolingo is actually an app, if you're interested in languages, that can help you as well to build habits. And it's a good example. But sometimes we don't have nice and well-developed apps available for the changes we want to see. So the other one I wanted to share with you is my commitment for exercise. Probably a topic that many of us can relate to very well. Now, my trick to make it obvious is in the evening before, I already put my training outfit on my bed. When I wake up, it's a no-brainer. It's obvious that I need to put it on. Is it attractive? It depends on the morning, I have to say. But in order for me to link it with something that I already do, as soon as I see the kids off to school, I meditate and then I work out. Why? Because that training outfit is not the most comfortable and not necessarily what I want to have it. But it reminds me, even if something's come up, yeah, I want to do this. And in all fairness, sometimes it's 20, 30 minutes, but I make it easy so that I feel progress. And it's been over 10, 12 years that in our family calendar, I always give myself a pink smiley, handwritten, on the day that I do exercise, because it's my contribution to my family's health as well. Now, there are many other ways to do this, but I just wanted to share with you that looking at designing that habit does not have to be complicated. Something that we're going to bring it to the work life as well, so the workplace, something that can help us is to make sure that we don't just audit how risky that habit change is. Is it a hat, a haircut, or a tattoo? And we don't just make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, but we also stack it with something. Habit stacking was a big epiphany for me many years ago when I first read about it. And it's super simple. The idea is after I do something currently, I will do something that I want to commit to. At the bottom, I wrote it down. After I pour my tea, I will do one lesson on Duolingo. Or if I want to get much better with project management and productivity, which is currently one of my goals as well with my own business, after I close my laptop, I will plan the next day. Again, that's just an association for a micro habit, a micro action that allows me to catch up on momentum. The idea with anchoring habits for change is not to say we are changing the process of XYZ today, but to look at it, what can we find as a head experiment to see how it fits? As Tatiana said, do we need to course correct? And then we catch a momentum that can be built on. It's all about making it less scary for people and less likely for people to resist what's coming. I'd like to share with you one case study. It's based on true life, and probably many of you have come across this before. CRM, the acronym I use here, it stands for Customer Relationship Management. Many organizations use it because as they grow, they need to have visibility of all the clients, customers, and stakeholders, and how they are keeping up to date with their needs. So let's imagine a fictional organization and your team that you are leading is resisting the new CRM, customer relationship management tool. They prefer Excel that they have used many times before for a long time. They see it as a tattoo change. We have a great Excel and I have the macros and I can build reports out of it. What I'd like you to help me do is to design ahead from that tattoo perceived change of introducing a new system, a CRM, customer relationship management, using the 4 laws. So making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. I would like you to come back to the same poll F that I've already shared with you. And in a moment, I'm just going to split you up into 4 groups. In your 4 groups, randomly assigned, you will have 7 minutes to think about how can you anchor habits for the CRM change, making it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying when your team, when the people around you see it as a tattoo, not a head change. Feel free to write into the poll app. It's an open text poll that I set up, and it will allow you to take notes, just the key notes. So when we come back after the 7 minutes, we can have an insight to what your teams have been discussing. So 7 minutes to get to know each other, to connect and think tank. And when you come back, let's share more about it. I'm opening the rooms and I look forward to having you back here in 7 minutes time. Warm welcome, everybody. I loved seeing the comments and I will share them with you in a moment, but I would love to invite you for a comment or two before we reveal those insights. So the first group was Priyanka, Leo, and Tatiana. What was your biggest takeaway from this? What could pull the trigger in the right direction? First group,
Tatiana, do you want
Priyanka,
to
Leo,
go
and
ahead?
Tatiana.
I can start off with something,
Go
and
for it.
Tatiana, you can fill in. One of the key points that we identified was trying to break down bigger challenges into milestones and pathways so it's clearer. And Tatiana raised an important point of breaking it down into functionalities, which I'll let her cover actually.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, that was breaking it into chunks where people might be just saying, okay, I don't understand the whole CRM, but I think Priyanka was talking about objections or what's the hurdle. And if people say, I want to see it on one spreadsheet, okay, can we respond saying, actually, you have a functionality like this, and in exchange, would you be willing to enter just that sort of part of information which would be required for it? So it's a bit of a give and take, and yeah. But I think, and the final point we were making, Priyanka brought it up that sometimes, yeah, we just need to sit down and have like, what's your biggest objection? What kind of open discussion can we have around that?
Thank you. Let's
Just to
listen to one or
supplement.
two more. Yes, Priyanka, do you want to add
Sorry,
something?
just to supplement to Tatiana's point, as she very well said, we've got to remember that at the base of it, we're not just changing always a project or a product. We're asking people to adapt to new styles. So we've got to understand the human element of it. Yeah, sorry.
Absolutely. The human element and what that logical change means for them at a logical and emotional level. Very well said. Thank you, Priyanka. One or two more comments before I share the poll results?
I think our challenge was, and I see challenges in the changing habits, is it's to make the abstract and this model that it's easy, attractive, simple, to very concrete steps and actions. And I think that's the biggest challenge. Obviously, it was a hypothetical case, but we basically came up with saying, well, just before lunch, they get an email or a trigger somehow or a text message that they just have to click to go in the CRM system and do something that when they do it again and again, it's beneficial for them. So thinking of a concrete action and a trigger, that's important. So I
And
think
that's often forgotten. In change management, we call it the step of aligning the infrastructure. You're going to have the best communication about the why, where to, what, how. But if that is not there, if our environment is not set up in a way that Ramin mentioned, that the abstract is translated to something practical, we're going to lose momentum and we're going to lose the battle for change. Thank you. Thank you for these comments. I do want to share with you the responses so that we can see what we can collectively learn from. An obvious could be install icon on desktop of the CRM. Attractive combined reporting with morning coffee for 3 minutes. Absolutely. Could be that's the habit stacking. To make it easy, maybe make sure you bookmark the page and keep the password to the customer relationship management CRM in your system. Satisfying, yes, then maybe put a little tick. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people love having direction list and just crossing it out or putting a tick, and that works in habits beautifully. Talk about the why, ask what they are willing to do, celebrate progress. Maybe to make it attractive, ask the boss to report on it regularly. Yes, yeah, I like the two together. So keeping visibility, measuring the progress, but also acknowledging compliance and that progress to people. To make it attractive, how does CRM makes their life easier, jobs easier? Very well said. We need to have a strong, not just business why, rational at a high level, but also for us, what's in it for us. Pilot it, show success stories, have a CRM just pop up, just what Ramin mentioned, just before lunch or per email or text message. An idea here is also get individual commitments. Don't force it if you don't have to. And that's a really good comment as well. So let the early adapters show that momentum and show that they are willing to do it. Here there is a tip about making it obvious, checking whether there are case studies, testimonies, and evidence that already show improvement. So it's not just an idea, but a proof. Attractive, maybe rewarding engagement, similarly to a previous comment, acknowledging those who are participating in it. Invite a weekly apero for a limited number of people to use the tool. One way to acknowledge that. Start with one functionality, understand the current hurdles, offer a solution response to objections. What are they allowed and not to do anymore? Capacity building according to work styles. Provide support to make an easy step and open discussion. This is a whole plan that we can do. Thank you so much for this group for sharing it. To breaking it down, understanding and acknowledging reasons to resist. Explain what exactly will be different, give them the capacity, train them so that they feel capable of doing it, and definitely don't let them just be on their own. Support them along the way. An easy way, making it easy, maybe through training, creating a simple routine with a trigger which shows how it is easier than the standard Excel spreadsheet, and maybe the reports can be drawn in much better ways. And as mentioned, the what's in it for me for key stakeholders, the senior influencers and tribal chiefs can also help. Love it, making it compelling, maybe offer a workshop in Ibiza. That's a great way also if the organization is capable of doing that. Thank you for that. Well, just to recap, as I mentioned to you that I will keep it very simple, but what I wanted all of us to think about how we can anchor habit behind the system change, how we can translate big ideas, organizational ideas to individual habits that actually help us see the progress. To recap, what I talked to you about is this lovely analogy from the podcast that I mentioned to you with James Clear about how risky your decisions are, the head, the haircut, and the tattoo, the 4 laws of building habits, making them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, and stacking them with something that we enjoy. Most organizations change not because they treat lots of changes as tattoos, but many people feel that the changes they want to launch are permanently, they are high stake, like the new customer relationship management launch or an organizational restructuring. And turning that tattoo to hat is exactly what we are aiming to do within my online program called Change Confident Academy. It's an 8-week program that allows us to dive deep into different frameworks to help us translate the abstract ideas to something that will be seen as a progressive change. If it's something of interest to you, feel free to browse on my website. I will also share it with you in the follow-up emails. There are several business leaders who have already done the program and have shared their experiences. There are success stories as well that hopefully shows you that if you are stuck with translating big change ideas to practical progress, there are different frameworks available out there. Amongst them, I trust that the Change Management Academy's program is also doing that. So come and join the next cohort, which will start after Easter on the 7th of April for 8 weeks with weekly group coaching sessions and asynchronous online learning at your fingertips. What we said at the beginning is that I would like you to look at with me how we build habits and routines. I would like to give you the opportunity to share and learn from one another, which I could see you've already got a taster for. And I trust that with the recap slide, I showed you the practical tool that can help us translate big ideas to practical habits. With closing moments, I would like to thank you for joining me today. As a token of appreciation, I would like to give you a copy of my book, Change Matters. The Kindle version and the audiobook version will be at your fingertip again. This is something that hopefully will show you further stories and also practical steps that you can bring back to your community or workplace. And with the final quote, I would like you to share with you is that we need to remember the famous words from Maya Angelou, the social activist, that people will forget what we said. People will forget what we did, but they will never forget how we made them feel. And when we talk about anchoring habits for change, is exactly that. Not just talking about what we need to do and say, but also how we want people around us to perceive it. And come along the way for the journey. Thank you so much for spending this European lunchtime with me. For some of you in the evening over there in Asia Pacific, it was a pleasure to have you here. I look forward to seeing you in the next forum, which will take place in May. And I wish you all the best with the next steps.
Thank you, Margit.